Imagine you're in your grandparents' attic, sifting through a lifetime of memories. You find an old, dusty book, and as you flip through its yellowed pages, a folded piece of paper slips out and falls to the floor. The names of cities and states are strange and archaic. What if it shows vast areas of the American West labeled simply unexplored territory? What if it was a sea chart used by a 19th century whaling ship out of Nantucket? What if that fragile piece of paper isn't just a decoration? It doesn't just show you what a place looked like. It shows you how people in the past understood their world, their ambitions, their fears, their myths, and their discoveries. Collectors, historians, and institutions seek out these beautiful objects as windows into the past. The value of an antique map is a combination of several key factors, and understanding them is like learning to read a secret language. Just like with fine art, the maker matters immensely. During the golden age of cartography from the 16th to the 18th centuries, European map-making houses were the global leaders. Names like Ortelius Mercator, Hondius, and Bleu are like the Ferrari and Lamborghini of the map world. Paper is fragile, so condition is paramount. You need to check for tears, holes, water stains, and foxing, which are the brown spots that appear on old paper. A map in clean, bright condition will always be worth more, but the most important question is about the color. Most antique maps were printed in black on it. The eastern seaboard is detailed, but beyond the Appalachian Mountains lies a vast, mysterious wilderness. These maps are not just geographical documents. They are political statements from an era of colonial rivalry. They show the competing land claims of Britain and France, the territories of Native American tribes, and the earliest settlements that would grow into major cities. The most famous example is the John Mitchell map of 1755. During this period, a number of maps were produced, both in Texas and by international publishers, to define the borders and encourage settlement in this new nation. Because the Republic of Texas existed for such a brief time, these maps are incredibly rare. They are sought after not just by general map collectors, but by passionate collectors of Texana. Finding an authentic map that explicitly labels Texas as a republic is a 5-star discovery. It was so detailed and authoritative that it was the primary map used during the Treaty of Paris negotiations to officially end the Revolutionary War and define the borders of the newly independent United States. Finding any large format, original map of colonial America from before 1776 is an exceptional discovery. They are working documents, often with handwritten notes and corrections, which adds to their historical appeal. To guide the 49ers mapmakers quickly produce maps showing the overland routes, the sea routes around Cape Horn, and most importantly, the locations of the newly discovered goldfields in the Sierra Nevada. They weren't traditional maps, but rather artistic, panoramic illustrations of a city or town, as if seen from a hot air balloon. Old paper that has been folded or rolled for a century is incredibly brittle. If you try to force it open, it will crack and tear along the folds. If it doesn't open easily, it's best to leave it to a professional paper conservator to relax and flatten it. They show every building, street, and landmark in remarkable detail. It's a time machine, a work of art, and a historical document all rolled into one. Unfold it with care. You might be the first person in 100 years to see that particular view of the world, and you might just be holding a forgotten and very valuable treasure. It shows us a world that no longer exists, seen through the eyes of our ancestors. It represents a moment in time when the world was still full of blank spaces, a time of discovery, ambition, and imagination. It should contain the title of the map, the name of the cartographer who drew it, and sometimes the name of the publisher or engraver who printed it. Can you see faint grid-like parallel lines in the paper itself? They're members of professional organizations and can tell you everything about your find. For online research, the David Rumsey Map Collection is a phenomenal free resource with high-resolution scans of over 150,000 maps. For valuation, look at the online inventories of dealers like Barry Lawrence Ruderman Antique Maps or check auction results. This is laid paper, a sign of pre-19th century manufacturing. Now take a magnifying glass and look at the printed lines. Are they solid, sharp, and slightly raised from the paper? This indicates an authentic engraving. If the lines are composed of thousands of tiny, perfectly uniform dots, you are looking at modern photolithography, and the map is a reproduction. Look for a date. This information is your starting point for all research. A clean, interesting bird's-eye view of an American town can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But there are many other fascinating and valuable antique maps that are much more likely to be found. These maps were practical tools, meant to be used, folded, and carried in a pocket. They were printed quickly and cheaply. As a result, very few have survived, especially in good condition. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, railroad companies produced countless maps to promote tourism and settlement along their routes. While many are common, some, especially large, decorative wall maps, are highly sought after by collectors of both maps and railroad memorabilia. A genuine Gold Rush map is a tangible connection to one of the most exciting and transformative events in American history. When white and then colored by hand with watercolor paints, often by specialists in the publisher's workshop. A map with beautiful, vibrant, original hand coloring from the period is far more valuable than a simple black and white copy. From the 1860s onward, it was popular for counties and states to publish large, detailed atlases. People often break up these atlases and sell the individual maps. It can be beautifully colored and decorated with vignettes of local farms and businesses. A map of the county where you live from 120 years ago can be a wonderful and valuable find. Be wary of modern, recently applied color, which can actually decrease a map's value. Original color is often more subtle and has a different texture than modern watercolor. A map from one of these famous workshops is an immediate sign of quality and significance. As America developed, its own map makers rose to prominence. Names like Henry Tanner, John Mellish, and the Colton family in the 19th century produced some of the most important maps of the growing nation. The cartographer's name is often found in a decorative box on the map called a cartouche, and because they were printed on fragile paper and often used in harsh conditions, many have been lost to time. Collectors are fascinated by maps from the early to mid-19th century that show the West as it was being explored and understood. This includes maps that depict one of the most famous cartographic errors of all time, California as an island. For over a century, many European map makers mistakenly showed California as a massive island off the coast of North America. It's a beautiful, fascinating error, and maps showing it are highly collectible. Also in this category are maps showing the routes of famous explorers like Lewis and Clark, or maps from before the Civil War that label huge swaths of the plains and mountains as unexplored territory, populated by nomadic tribes. These maps capture the spirit of manifest destiny and American expansion. A map's value is deeply tied to its historical importance. Is it a map of a place that collectors are passionate about? A map of the New World from the 16th century, showing a still-forming understanding of the Americas, is a historical treasure. A map of the original 13 American colonies made before the Revolutionary War is a foundational document. A map of a specific state, like Texas, during the brief period it was an independent republic, is incredibly rare and desirable. The more historically significant the time period and the location, the more valuable the map. The ones that survive, especially those that document key moments in American history, can be major historical and financial discoveries. Today, we're going to give you the treasure hunter-esque guide to identifying these paper artifacts that might be hiding in your own home. The way a map was made is a huge clue to its age and authenticity. The oldest maps from the 15th and 16th centuries were often woodcuts. The lines are usually thick and a bit crude. The dominant method for fine maps from the 16th through the 18th century was copperplate engraving. This process allowed for incredibly fine, sharp lines. A key telltale sign of an engraving is that you can often feel a faint indentation in the paper. It's called a plate mark, around the border of the map where the copper plate was pressed into the sheet. In the 19th century, lithography became common, which allowed for more subtle details and easier color printing. If you use a magnifying glass, you should see solid lines of ink. If you see a pattern of tiny dots, you are almost certainly looking at a modern 20th or 21st century reproduction. The paper itself is also a clue. Old maps were printed on laid paper, which, when held up to the light, reveals faint parallel lines from the wire mesh it was made on. But a rare first-hand document of American history that could be worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. Your first thought is probably, that's a cool decoration, but it's just an inaccurate, worthless old map. Or maybe you read at an estate sale and you see a cardboard tube leaning in a corner. Inside is a rolled-up, brittle sheet of paper. It's hard to imagine a time when maps were humanity's most precious and vital information technology. For centuries, a map wasn't just a tool. It was an expensive, painstakingly crafted work of art and science that represented the absolute edge of human knowledge. You open it carefully, it's a map. The colors are faded, the coastlines look a little wrong, but what if that map was drawn before California was even a state? Today on Treasure Hunters, we're navigating the intricate, beautiful, and incredibly valuable world of antique maps. Welcome back to Treasure Hunters. In our modern age of Google Maps and GPS, where the entire world is mapped down to the inch and lives in our pockets, kings and queens commissioned them. Explorers risked their lives for them, and merchants guarded them as state secrets. An antique map is a time machine. Because of this, a passionate market for antique maps has existed for centuries. So, you've found an old map. How do you tell if it's a priceless 18th century artifact or a common 20th century schoolhouse reprint? First, and most importantly, is the cartographer and publisher, the who behind the map. Second, is the subject and region, the what and where of the map. No. Third, you need to look at the printing method and the paper. Fourth, is the condition and the question of original color. Now, let's talk about the legends. These are the maps that tell the story of America itself, the holy grail finds that collectors dream of discovering. Grail number 1, pre-revolutionary maps of the 13 colonies. Imagine a map from the 1750s, drawn by an English or French cartographer. Grail number 2, maps of the mythic American West. There is a powerful mythology around the American West, and antique maps are at the heart of it. Grail number 3, maps of the Republic of Texas. For 9 short years, Texas was its own independent country. Grail number 4, gold rush maps. In 1849, the world rushed to California. Okay, the chances of finding a 17th century map of an island, California, might be slim. A great place to look is in 19th century state and county atlases. Also, look for railroad maps. Don't overlook nautical charts. Old sea charts used by sailors to navigate American coastlines, harbors, or whaling grounds can be very interesting. Finally, look for panoramic or bird's-eye view maps. These were popular in the late 1800s. You've found an old map? It looks promising. What do you do? Step 1. Handle with extreme care. Step 2. Look for clues on the map itself. The most important information is usually printed right on the map. Look for the decorative cartouche, or title box. Step 3. Examine the paper and the printing. This is how you spot a fake. Hold the map up to a bright light. Step 4. Consult experts in online databases. The best way to get a map identified and appraised is to contact a reputable antique map dealer. An antique map is so much more than an old piece of paper. So, when you are exploring an old library, an estate sale, or a dusty attic, keep your eyes open for that folded or rolled up piece of history. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please hit that like button, subscribe,